All right, it's now 6:04 p.m. on 5/25, May 25th of 2017. It's time to call this workshop special meeting of the Board of Trustees of San Felipe Del Rio Consolidated Independent School District to order. I'll call roll. Mr. Mesa.
Here.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Here.
Ms. Haynes. Ms. Lozano. Myself, Mr. Orfeld. Mr. Chavita.
Here.
Mr. Smith. And that gives us 4, which does give us a quorum. So we do have a quorum. So let the record show the quorum of the trustees exists, and this meeting has been duly called and posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This time, if you please stand for opening ceremonies, first with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. First part of the meeting will be the workshop, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Rios. It's all yours, sir.
Good afternoon, Board President, members of the board. Over the last few days, we have worked with Luz to prepare this presentation and be as inclusive as we can. We've asked you to add a couple of slides, and we asked you not to do the PowerPoint. We asked you to go straight for the presentation to give you all as much detail as possible. Hopefully, with more detail being discussed, it'll create some questions that we might ask her to go back and research for us. Connie and I already thought about some as we were doing a final review this morning. So we appreciate all your work, and we appreciate you coming down here. We'll get through the presentation, see what questions you have and what recommendations we might have, and then we'll get ready for the next meeting. Go ahead, man.
That's good. All right. Well, thank you. Again, it's my pleasure to be back, and we're going to go ahead and get started. There's a lot of information, and definitely if you have a question as we're going through this, let me know. We're going to go ahead and begin with our page 1, which is the listing of the school districts that became the market group. We have 2 sets of market comparisons for teacher pay. So we have an expanded group, which is this one. Includes the 10 districts, most of them in the San Antonio area, with the exception of Laredo and United, and then we have San Angelo that is in Region 15. So pretty much you can see here that most of the districts are kind of close to you in the sense that are your peer districts for pay purposes, primarily your teachers and all of the other pay groups. This market was revised a little bit from last year's pay study. At last year's pay study, we had a larger number of districts from Region 1. And so we just kind of narrowed it some because we felt this was more comparable. So we're going to begin with the teacher market comparison. And if you'll see on page 3, this is the list of the districts sorted from 1 to 8. And this is the set of districts, that expanded set of districts that we're using for teachers. The red line is where you, the district, falls as far as your starting teacher pay. So your starting teacher pay is $40,550, and you fall between San Angelo at $39,000 and Eagle Pass at $41,000. Now the set of districts that we have here are sorted from at the 0-year salary from the highest paying district to the lowest paying district, which is San Angelo, as you can see there. So Harlandale being at 50,750 and San Angelo being at 39,000. So in this expanded comparison, the district is at 86% of market at 0 and 5 year of experience, begins to improve to 11% below the market median at 10 years, 6% below the market median at 15 years, and then you're most competitive to the market median at that 20-year mark, which is at 3% below. The average teacher salary comparison is basically driven by tenure of teachers overall. So then we also looked at how you compare to the smaller market, and this smaller market is Uvalde and Eagle Pass. And so you can see that the comparison to these two set of peer districts, you are much more competitive in that you now are only 3% below would be the average of these two districts, and then just shy of the market median at 5 year and exceed the market median or average, because we have two districts at 10 years and above. So clearly more competitive when we just narrowed that market comparison to Uvalde and Eagle Pass. I just want to make note that Uvalde didn't participate in our salary survey, and so the data that we did obtain from them is from their teacher website, from their website, and we were able to obtain how much they pay their teachers and stipends. We also wanted to capture a historical comparison over the past 3 years to the two districts that we just did the comparison to for this year here at the starting pay. And so what we have here is basically in 2014-15, you can see you being the district in red, we're above Eagle Pass, but below Uvalde. And so Eagle Pass remained constant as they moved over to 15-16, as well as Uvalde. They didn't make any adjustments, but you did make an adjustment to your starting teacher salary for 15-16. And so you were still above Eagle Pass, and you narrowed the gap a little bit between you, of course, and Uvalde. However, this year we've seen a bigger change or movement in the market, in that you now have fallen below not only Uvalde, but Eagle Pass has surpassed you as far as the starting teacher pay. So we just kind of wanted to look at the historical, at least over the 3 years, and the shift in the starting teacher pay that we are beginning to see, especially with these two immediate districts. So the way this looks when we look at it via a graph is you can see the district in that light blue line at each of those 5-year intervals, beginning with 0 year up to 20 years. And then the market median, and this graph here is the market median to that expanded market that included the San Antonio area districts. And so that gap between the dark blue line and your line at each of those 5-year intervals, that's the gap. That's where you're lagging the market, and that's, in this market comparison, that's where you lag the market the most, 0, 5 years, and then you begin to narrow that gap at that 10-year going up. So as we saw with the narrowed market comparison with Uvalde and Eagle Pass, you can see here that your comparison to them as far as the average of those two districts, you're just shy of below at the entry, and then you surpass those two districts. The average, the average of those two districts you surpass at 10 years and above. So below at the entry, above those two districts at 10 years and above, when we look at your comparison. All right. Then we're also looking at the teaching field stipends. And continuing with that expanded list, we have the districts here. And you pretty much, when we look at what you pay, beginning with your master's degree stipend, and then the other teaching field stipends, overall, you're pretty much above the market median, except for in the special ed categories. So, for example, you'll see that the master's degree stipend, you offer a $1,500 master's degree stipend. The median is $1,000. You've got Eagle Pass and Uvalde that have been highlighted so that we can see where it is that they fall in these areas as far as teaching field stipends. Now, we do have two districts in this peer group that also have added a stipend for a master's degree in a content area. Some areas have really begun to do this more as the dual credit programs have become, more of a focus. And so that's the way that they're shifting over to try to incentivize their teachers to get their master's degree in the content area. And then also some districts have a dual credit stipend as well in addition to this. In this immediate peer group of the 10 districts, there's only 2 that have that, that offer that. In the secondary math and science, you offer a $2,200 stipend. The median is $2,000. You will note though that Uvalde has a $5,000 stipend for math and science. And so what we see sometimes across the state with some districts is that they'll have their stipends, especially in these very specialized and critical areas, they're usually a little bit stronger because the cost associated with having these more competitive is more contained. We're not talking about as many teachers, and they're very specific and set to areas that you need to be really more competitive in. So that's what some districts do, especially with the tightening of the funds that are available for school district budgets. In special ed, it's, you're 1,100, the median is 1,350 for general resource. What we are beginning to see is more and more districts implement a stronger stipend in the self-contained special ed area. Typically it's behavioral, autism units. And it's just because they're so much more difficult and challenging, and so they've either reduced their general resource stipend, done away with it, or they've actually added a much robust stipend for self-contained. So you can see here that we have Edgewood has a $4,500 stipend for special ed self-contained. Laredo likewise $4,000, and United $4,000. So just illustrating how some districts are using the stipends to help them be more competitive in areas where they may be having difficulty recruiting or finding staff. What I do want to point out though is that the district, Del Rio actually has a signing bonus. So bilingual and ESL are above the market median, and so that's a good area there. But as we move into the signing bonus, the district does offer through grant funds a signing bonus for areas, critical teacher shortage areas at the secondary, which are math and science and special ed. So there is a sign-on bonus that is offered by the district. You see here that we've got 3 other districts in this category that offer a sign-on bonus. And as noted in the footnote section below, Carrizo Springs and Crystal City, they offer that a $3,000 for math and science as a sign-on bonus, and then $2,500 for bilingual and special ed, $2,000 for career and technology. They also require a 2-year commitment from their teachers with this signing bonus. Crystal City as well has this 2-year commitment for them. And then we have San Angelo that offers a sign-on bonus in the math, chemistry, composite science, and then $4,000 for bilingual. So, sign-on bonuses continue to be used by districts. It's just, we want to make sure that sign-on bonuses are a one-time payment. It's to lure, to attract, to recruit the individual, but they don't continue on like the other type of stipends that we just reviewed, which are provided every year if they are in that assignment, as far as whether in a math or in a science, in that category that stipend is specified for. Then the district also offers another $3,000 stipend, and this is also through grant funds that is associated with the critical shortage areas. So while the other stipends are at market median, you do have these other stipends, the sign-on stipend of $3,000, and then this other $3,000 that the district can, in a sense, together are really much stronger than what the comparison to the market median is in this table. Okay. We also looked at the teacher incentives, and these are campus assignment is more as a district is working with a turnaround campus, trying to incentivize their better performing teachers to move over to those campuses. There's only one district, United has that. Your mentor teacher stipend, that's a stipend that's provided for teachers that take on mentoring of fairly new teachers. Some districts offer that. There are some programs, sometimes university programs, that may have monies that flow through, but we don't have anything for the district as far as a mentor teacher stipend. Then as we look at the department chair stipends, you'll notice that the median stipend at the high school is $2,000, the district's is $1,770, so fairly close to that stipend. What we see with this department chair stipends is that most districts will offer these stipends, but they will be prorated depending on the number of teachers that a department chair supervises. So while the stipend amount is stated here, for example, Carrizo Springs at $3,000, it's basically, it could be up to $3,000, and it has a threshold, and then they add, it goes up depending on the number of teachers that they supervise. What I just want to note here is that the department chair at the elementary for Carrizo Springs, the $4,000, that's really specific for dyslexia, and then it's $3,000 for the other pre-K through 1 through 3, and then the other areas, and all these are in the footnotes noted below. So the district right now offers the department chair stipends at the elementary level that are much more robust than the market median that we see here for the elementary level. We're also going to now, on page 10, look at the distribution of year teachers. This is the teachers, there's 632 teachers that we were able to identify that the district has. And so this graph here shows the count of the teachers at each year of experience up to 30 plus years. And that line that has the 50th percentile, basically what this illustrates is that half of your teachers fall under the 10 years of experience, and the other half of the teachers fall above the 10 years of experience. So it kind of gives you the 50-50 distribution of that. What is notable here is, of course, the number of the 30-plus teachers that the district has. And so this number is 72. That represents an 11% of your total teachers. And so this, we look at this, and this kind of just is a planning tool, because we know that there will be a future point in time where the district will need to fill some of these vacancies as they begin to occur. And so the need to at least have pay that's a little bit competitive with your peer groups as you begin to recruit and fill the vacancies that will result as of these this age experience group. It's just a good planning tool for looking to see where you fall, how competitive you are as you have those needs in the immediate future. Another comparison that we looked at is to take a look at the teachers by years of experience to the two districts that we've been also having that narrow comparison with, which is Uvalde and again Eagle Pass. We've also brought in the statewide comparison. And this is as a percentage of your total teacher staff by a breakdown or category of years of experience. So as we look at this for your beginning teachers, these are the 0-year teachers, you'll note that the district San Felipe del Rio is pretty much just slightly over as far as 0-year teachers with EPISD. I'll say EPISD, I think of El Paso when I say that. But pretty much when we look at this, the district is, almost equal to, as far as the lowest at 0-year teachers when compared to statewide and when compared to your peers other than Eagle Pass, which is just a few points above Eagle Pass. But Uvalde has really a 5.7%. Eagle Pass is 3.6%. Your district is 3.95% at that 0 or beginning teacher experience, and statewide we see 8.10%. So as we look at each of these categories here, the district is really below the state average at all points that we've compared, except at the 20-plus years of experience. When we look at it with your two peer districts as well, for the most part, it is below Uvalde in every one of these that we compare, except again at that 20-year, between Eagle Pass and the district, you tend to switch places depending on the grouping of the years, where in the 1 to 5 years of experience, you're a little bit higher at almost 26%, whereas Eagle Pass is 17.6%, and then you trade places at that 6 to 10 years of experience, and you are basically you have the lowest total teachers within that category relative to the two districts and statewide, and continuing on to that 11 and 20 years of experience. But again, I think that as we saw the previous scattergram or histogram as we refer to it, that showed the 30-plus years being at the largest category or group of teachers. It also continues on with this comparison statewide even. Any questions?
Bruce, I'm sure that this survey is done before our teachers with 30, 40 years retired. Like the ones that indicated retirement is done before? Because we're losing a lot of 30, 40
It's
years.
last year's data. It's,
This is last year's.
yeah,
Last year.
Yes, this is from PEMS. The years of experience right here from PEMS.
So, I mean, it could have some changes. I don't know how many have retired yet, at that 30 plus. Actually, page 10, that's current numbers. Current 2016-17 distribution count at 30 plus. Page 11, that's PEMS data.
I'm saying because, we have a lot of teachers, we just had the ceremony yesterday. And there's a lot of teachers with 30, 40 years that are retiring. I mean, the majority have over 30 years.
So just note for Uvalde and Eagle Pass and statewide, this is PEMS data, but I'm using actual district numbers in this comparison as well. On page 12, so then we also analyze of the teachers that were reported with 0 years district experience. We identified 40 of those, and of those 40 that were hired by the district, they're new to the district, we found that 65% of those had 0 years of experience. So this number tends to be maybe a little bit higher than what we see across statewide, but what we've seen and what is the trend is that most districts are hiring teachers, and they are hiring teachers within the 0 to 10 years of experience. Very few teachers with more than 10 years of experience are hired, and if they are, they're in very specialized areas or coaching assignment, teacher coaches. So we have a model here on page 13, which is a 1.5% increase and adjustment to your teacher pay. You'll see here that we set the starting pay at $41,550. Again, this proposed starting salary is still below what Uvalde's current teacher salary is, because they are above $42,000. But we set the $41,550, and then how this template works here is that it takes your current teachers at 0 year, for example, making $40,550. We calculate a 1.5% off of the teacher average, market average that's in that peer group, and we're using the expanded peer group, and which is that $54,221 down at the bottom here, and we multiply the 1.5% by the average teacher in the market group. That keeps you connected to the market, so that we tie you in to the going average teacher pay within that peer group. So that turns out to be $825. So that teacher would get the $825, and then because we are adjusting your starting pay from the $40,550 to the $41,550, we have to add additional adjustments so that year one would not be less than your 0 year. And so we call that to ensure that pay is not compressed, to alleviate that pay compression. And we continue those adjustments through year 13. So your 0 year teacher that moves to year one would get $41,750 as a salary. That would be the total of the $40,550 plus the $825 plus the $375. And as you bring someone from the outside in, with 1 year of experience, they would also be placed at $41,750. So this is just to ensure that your continuing teachers are not paid below what your new higher teacher schedule indicates. You'll notice that the proposed teacher, you can see here under the current market median comparisons that the 41,550 moves you about 2 points from 86% of market at entry to about 88% of market, and it continues, that's sustained through year 5. Your market position improves to about 90%, 1 point at that 10-year, and then again, you're more competitive at that 15 through 20 year. When we do the comparison to Uvalde and Eagle Pass, we have you really moving to 100% when we move you to that 41,550 with the average of those 2 districts at entry, and then you begin to be slightly above. I just want to remind you that while we show this as you moving at least a point or a couple of points above, the market's going to move after all is said and done and everybody approves their budgets. There will be some pay increases, and so while this is an estimate of where you will fall, given the current market, we know that once the market moves, then your market position will change. We're gonna,
Can I ask
yes,
a question at this
sure.
point? Yanakani, the capping of the salaries is up to 20 years, correct?
Our capping of salaries, when retire or rehire comes back into the district is 20 years. But for our teacher employees who are current employees, it goes to year, I believe.
Right now it's 37. Yes.
37, yeah.
37?
And so in this proposed model here, we have taken that down to 30 years being the highest that you would bring a teacher into the district as far as salary purposes the first year that they come on board. So for example, if they have 33 years of experience, they would be placed at this 30 plus years, this proposed 59,505, if they're not a retired rehire. If they're a retired rehire, they would be placed in at that 20-year mark.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
Also what you'll note here is that there is a range maximum. So we have your new hire teacher schedule that goes 0 to 30 years. And then we have a range maximum for your continuing teachers, right? And so there is a range maximum that goes to $61,080. And so we are, that is a range maximum for continuing teachers. And so when we get to the cost estimates, I'll let you know as far as the pay increase. We have not modeled an increase for anyone that whose current pay is above that level. Okay, because there is a range maximum for every job. On page 15, we have the district administration market comparison, and what we've done with this group is basically you'll see the 3 colors, and I actually like this coloring scheme. And what you can easily see here is that those jobs that fall within 10% of market, so they're anywhere between 90% to 110% of market, they are within a competitive range. You'll see that we've got 7 positions here that fall within that category. The light purple coloring indicates the positions that are above 10% of market. We have 3 of those positions. You can see those positions listed. And then you can see the blue category. We have 3 positions there. And those are the ones that are paid below 90% of market. So when we talk about market comparisons and we talk about having this market-based pay systems and market-based pay strategy, what we basically are saying is that we want the pay ranges and the pay structures, primarily the midpoints as we create your structures to align to the market value or the market medians for the jobs that are within those pay grades as we establish the pay range. And then what we want to see is pay clustered around that market rate of pay, anywhere within 10% of the market to maintain that competitive position. When pay starts falling below 90% of market, that's when pay starts it's not as competitive. And so, you're gonna, you may begin to lose some employees if they start seeking, going to other areas, other districts, finding more competitive pay. But you'll see here that that's what the categories reflect of this group. So when we look at it as a group, all jobs, all 13 jobs, you'll note at the bottom next to the 2016-17, as a group they're at 100% of market. But on an individual position level, you'll see that some were within the 10%, 3 were above the 10%, and 3 were below that 10% of market. We also have a comparison here of the 15-16 and how this category compared back then as a group. And basically this is, again, keep in mind that the market peers were a little bit different last year, but it just kind of shows that there's been some change. It will capture, there's individuals that have been changed. We've got new individuals in new positions, but overall, the category here, there's been a little bit of improvement as a 4-point change in that. And then the last measure that we have, the very last column, that's basically how the district's current pay ranges, particularly the midpoints, compared to the market or are connected to the market value for the positions that the range is reflective of what those jobs should be paid. And so we have here that your current ranges are not competitive as far for your administrative professional. And this is just a product of the matrix that we have in place with the half steps. So in essence, really, we don't truly have midpoints because we have so many steps and half steps in there. But if we were to break it in half and take the lowest and the highest and take the middle value of that matrix, your ranges for the jobs are too low at that center point. And basically what we have is very wide ranges, and we've had this conversation where the range is so wide that there's no connection to the market at the middle value. And because they're so wide, the entry tends to be low, just because when you have a wide range, the entry or starting salary cannot be as competitive. And then the maximum becomes too high. And so with that wide range, we have too big a variance in pay between individuals doing very similar work. And so that just creates inequities in pay, because you've got people doing same work but making maybe very different salaries, substantially different salaries, just because of how wide the range is.
So,
Sure.
on the administrative one here, we have at or above market 10,
Mm-hmm.
and only 3 who are below.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And those are only 3 positions, Luz, that you had the market position for?
That's
Yes,
correct.
So this is
So-
all of our positions.
So a good point, Yanakani. So we don't survey for every position, and so these are just benchmark jobs. And you have many other jobs that we don't have benchmark or survey information on. And so we place those jobs relative to their responsibilities in relationship to other jobs within the structure.
Right, but these are the face of,
These are the
this is the
benchmark jobs
face
that we.
of the administrative. When we think administrative, this is what the community, everyone else thinks, so.
Yes.
Then on page 16, this is your campus administration. So these are your assistant principals and your principals. They're all within that 10% of market. There are some differences in the days as noted. And so as we prorate the difference or calculate the comparison relative to the difference in the days, for example, middle school principal, you can see there in the little table below, you actually have the duty schedule for that job is greater at 226 versus the 217, so they work 9 days more. So while the market comparison, if we just looked at the total salary, because these are exempt jobs, and we look at the total salary paid, it's 6% above the market. If we look at it on a daily rate basis, it's 2% above market. But even with prorating the days differences, all the positions are within 10% of market. The one position that is is close to that 90% is the elementary school principal, that once we do the calculation of the difference in the days on a daily rate basis, instead of at 95% of market, it would go to 91% of market comparison. But again, good job on your campus administrators. And we didn't really see any, I mean, there's not a lot of outliers, you know, as kind of was mentioned. I mean, we don't see too many outliers, which is a good thing. As far as above market, no, we've got some jobs that are paid below the market medians. But, I mean, we have a few, but not significant numbers. Then for your professional support, we have 21 positions here. And so you'll note here of those 21, 15, so a large number of them are within that 10% of market. We have 2 positions in this category that are noted as paid below 10% of market. But however, when we do the daily rate calculation for these 2 jobs, you'll note that the speech language pathology assistant actually moves up a couple points to 92% of market. So in essence, it really is within that 10% of market. The positions that are above market, you can see we've got 4 positions that are greater than 10% above, and actually 16% up to 39% above market. And now your LSSP, that position, while it's 39% above market, it is working 24 more days. And when we do the proration of those days and do the calculation on a daily rate basis, it's 25% above market. So while there is differences in days, the positions continue to kind of be paid either above market or below market, comparable to where they are identified under these coloring schemes of above, at, or below market comparison. Any questions? All right, so on page 18, this is the proposed administrative professional pay plan. We've got another coloring scheme going on here. It makes it much easier for me to be able to identify some of the changes. But I also wanted to mention that right now the district has the teacher salary matrix And then you also have a salary matrix for your counselors, your nurses, and the librarians. And so we're recommending that we just bring that into one plan, one pay group, administrative professional. You have your teachers. We can have the administrative professional pay group. Just the administration part of processing pay is the complexity behind trying to look at the different plans and calculate salaries with the different matrices. It just lessens that whole administration. In my humble opinion, sometimes nightmare. It's too many pay plans. So what's noted here is blue. The blue coloring indicates that we've moved the job from another pay group over. So for example, in pay grade 2, you'll see here that we have the position of human resource coordinator. This is the position that we are retitling and placing over in this category. We are bringing in the database manager, Skyward specialist, that's on the teacher schedule onto this plan. And then the district has currently a coordinator of multimedia production in pay grade 3. And so we are placing the position in pay grade 2 because we're adjusting the pay ranges so that they're much more competitive at entry. And so while the job may have been in a 3, as we've updated this range, it fits within the range here. So given the job responsibilities, this is where we've determined the placement for the position. In pay grade 3, you'll notice that we have several positions that were on the teacher schedule that we are recommending they be moved over. They're noted with the blue highlight, as well as where they were, teacher or librarian or registered nurse. The district right now has 2 registered nurse categories as far as pay matrix. And so what we're saying is, the only requirement to be a nurse is to have the registered nurse certification, and you can be a registered nurse either through an associate's program or a 4-year program. There is no difference between the two as far as salary purposes. They're both valued the same in the industry, in the outside world. And so we are saying bring those registered nurses into this administrative professional pay grade 3.
May I ask why we have them like that? What was the difference? Was it 1 degree and one?
One was associates and one was the bachelor's. And so the district valued those differently, but there is no difference nowadays.
Okay.
In pay grade 4, so then the yellow coloring indicates that we've moved the position up a pay grade. So in pay grade 3, you'll notice the athletic trainer. It used to be in a pay grade 3. The market for that position, it indicates that we really need to place it in a more competitive range. And given the positions that are in pay grade 3, it's more comparable in that category. And then likewise in pay grade 4, you'll see we have the parent coordinator and the speech language pathologist coordinator that were in a 3, that we are recommending they go in a 4. We've placed your counselors in pay grade 4, in the same pay grade as your assistant principals at the elementary. They have the market for your counselors continues to be competitive. And then we have your curriculum coordinators. They were in pay grade 4. There's no change there. We've brought in the educational diagnostician, and so they were under their own salary matrix. And then we have moved what you had as an LSSP appraiser coordinator and the network administrator, they were in a pay grade 5. Given their market value and given their role relative to the other jobs in pay grade 5, we moved up to pay grade 4 for a more comparable placement, given the other positions in this group as well. So you'll notice that pay grade 5, we've placed the educational diagnostician coordinator. It used to be on the diagnostician salary matrix. And then you'll notice pay grade 7, we have the administrative director in that pay grade. And we have created a pay grade 9. This is where we've moved your basically, I guess I would call this the chief levels, the top levels of the areas. The market, as if you recall, of the district administration positions, these were the positions that were the lowest to the market of those jobs in the market comparison. And so they haven't been in a competitive pay range, and this positions them in the pay range that is appropriate given the market value for those jobs. What you'll see on page 20 is we actually have a placement scale for your administrators. I know that our position at TASB, as far as compensation many times, particularly for your exempt individuals, many times is we want you to kind of stay away from step schedules that are not flexible, that are basically driven primarily by one criteria and one criteria alone being experience. But we know that the district has valued having a system like this. It's had a history of having a system of steps. And so we have created a placement scale for your administrators. And how we have done this is basically you've got competitive pay ranges, but we've taken your pay range from the minimum to the midpoint, and we've spread that incrementally up to 20 years so that this can serve as a guide as you look at the experience that your administrators are bringing in. And we want to take a look at experience that's relevant to the job. We're not going to count all education experience. And so we have procedures that we have provided the district as we move hopefully towards this system and have this placement scale as a guide for the administrative professional positions in all the pay grades from 2 through 9. Then on the paraprofessionals, page 22, these are your aides. You'll see here that all of them are within 10% of market. So what I want to mention is that this is really good, because I know that last year the district worked really hard at making improvements to your clerical and your auxiliary pay groups. And I mean, this shows that here you've got your instructional aides. They're at 2% of market. Look at the range midpoints compared to market. These are really more connected midpoints because you really brought those ranges down. And I believe you don't have any steps above 27 for these pay groups now. So when we look at where that midpoint falls, it's really aligned and connected to the market value. So yay you, 3% above when it comes to the range midpoints, 2% above when it comes to actual pay for this category. And I think that we're going to see the trend likewise. We'll have a few jobs where we may need to make some adjustments, and those adjustments are being addressed as part of this proposal. But really, I was just very happy to see that. On your clerical paraprofessional, we have 23 benchmark jobs in this category. And so in this group, we have more than half that fall within that 10% of market. There are some positions that we really need to try to make improvements in. We have 7 jobs that fall below the 90% of market. Some of them are particularly low to market. And so in the proposed pay ranges that we have where these positions will fall, those adjustments to their pay will at least have some improvement. Now, it's not going to take them to the market, but it will begin the process of improving their pay to where they will, over time, be a little bit more competitive to the market. Of the 23 positions in this category, only 3 are above the 10% of market. And some of this is also due to the service, the long tenure, I believe, that some of these individuals have had. And so as the district went from, the 45 steps that you used to have, even for these groups, and you brought those ranges in, they still had their same rate of pay, and so that's why you have this above market comparison. If we continue to hold the line on increases to those above the range maximums, then what we're going to see is these begin to come down as far as above the market, because if you continue to give them pay increases, they're just going to continue to go above market, and the above market comparison is going to skyrocket. And so if we're able to hold them to the range maximum, then the variance in pay between these individuals here and others in the same pay grade will become less and less over time. The next category is we have here the proposed paraprofessional pay plan. So these are the pay grades. This is what you currently have. Not a whole lot of changes here. We've made those changes last year. So from this group for the paraprofessional and the auxiliary, very, very few pay grade changes. We're just now in a tweaking mode. That's what would occur if we implement the administrative professional structure. The first year, there's a lot of changes, there's a lot of alignment sometimes, and then afterwards, we just tweak a little bit. There's a few jobs that need some movement because maybe the market has changed. Maybe we didn't capture them correctly initially. So in this group, you'll notice that on page 25, we are aligning the secretary district police position with the other secretary positions here. Because of the market and because of the role in their responsibilities for the positions, that we've moved 4 positions into pay grade 5. They're highlighted in yellow. And that is it as far as the changes. Now the ranges have been adjusted, just like the ranges for the administrative professional. And as I mentioned, as far as the placement scale, you do currently have a placement scale as well, or a salary matrix for your paraprofessionals. Is it? Do you want me to wait?
No,
Okay.
go ahead, sorry.
It's okay. And what we've provided here is a placement scale very comparable to the administrative professional in the sense that we've spread pay incrementally from the minimum to the midpoint over 20 years. Again, what this helps with is the peer-to-peer equity. And so it just ensures that if someone has 3 years of experience, let's say in pay grade 3, if they're not paid at $12.85, they're brought up to $12.85 an hour, so that we contain and control the differences of pay between individuals given their years. And so this is the peer-to-peer equity that we use, or what these placement scales basically end up addressing. And they also serve as a guide for placing new individuals into the system as well, because we've already taken your current employees to these levels, and as you bring someone new, given the years that you're going to credit for their experience, which should be relevant experience, then you would use this as a guide in the placement as well. Yes.
And this one that you changed the district police secretary, she's gonna be making less now?
No. So no one, we're not reducing pay of any employee at all. Now, they are in a pay range that may be a little bit lower than the previous pay range they were in, but no one is having a reduction to their current salary.
Then you get an increase either?
They will get, so only those that are above the range maximums. So we talked about the paraprofessional placement scale on page 26, and now we're going to move to the auxiliary comparison. So we have 21 positions in this category here, and of this group, overall, they're at 4% above the market. Again, more than half of the positions fall within 10% of market. We have 5 positions that are above 10% of market, but 2 of those are just 1% over. So really they're just, and part of that is, again, it could be the experience. What we do have is, your cafeteria managers at the elementary school are very strong to market in this category here. For those that are below the market comparison, the vehicle mechanic, your police officers, and your bus monitors are the ones that are below that 10% of market. And so continuing with the auxiliary pay plan, as I mentioned on the paraprofessional, very few changes other than the ranges being adjusted. We're only making just a couple of changes for positions. So we are moving the mechanic helper from the 2 to a 3, given the role of the job. We are moving on page 30 the peace officer. Remember, they were one of the jobs that were, they were one of the 3 jobs in the auxiliary pay group that was paid below 90% of market relative to your market group. And so they are moved to pay grade 7 and placed in this range that's more, at least comparable to that market value that's in your market group for them. Because we moved up the peace officer, we had to then move up the police sergeant, because otherwise they would be in the same pay grade. So we had to move that one position up. And then you had the maintenance supervisor actually had been placed on the paraprofessional pay grade 8. And because of the type of position and the type of duties, we feel that it falls better in the pay group, the auxiliary pay group, because you have other supervisors, the maintenance supervisors, food service supervisors, your shipping and receiving supervisors. So we brought it over to this pay group, and we've added this pay grade 9 because the market for that position is higher. This individual is overseeing your skilled trades and does have a little bit stronger market value than the other positions in pay grade 8. And page 31, you'll notice we have the placement scales again. So the range 0 to midpoint, we've spread pay incrementally over 20 years. And we've adjusted your incumbents to these levels up to the midpoint as well. So now we're gonna get to the cost summaries. And I forgot to mention that when we looked at the teacher schedule, we actually had the cost at the very top of that page, and I didn't mention it. But now that we're at the cost summary here, you'll notice that the 1.5% general pay increase, that's the $825 increase for teachers. That's $505,576. Then we have the additional adjustments. That's $198,824. So the 1.5 adjustment adds up to $704,401 for your teachers. Then on the administrative professional, you'll see here that the 1.5% is $148,760. We have adjustments to the range minimums of $17,368. Because we have the placement scale, we have those adjustments that are associated with creating a placement scale. That cost is $98,212. There's 41 individuals. And then we also have adjustments that we refer to as teacher pay equity adjustments. So these are instructional leaders, particularly your counselors, assistant principals, that are in that teacher career path. And so we ensure that on a daily rate basis, they're not paid any less than what they would be paid as a teacher given their years of experience. And so we had to make some adjustments there. And then we had some adjustment in some duty days, and you can see that there was just a slight adjustment, correction in duty days there. So the cost for this category or this pay group is $272,663. On your paraprofessional group, we have the 1.5% is $105,800. We have no adjustments to the range minimums because they all pretty much fall within that. So while we may have adjusted the ranges, we didn't have anyone that needed to be adjusted any further. And then the placement scale adjustments for this group at $86,752, that's 103. So almost a third of your paraprofessionals are receiving some adjustment for that placement scale adjustment matrix that we've provided for you here. And then on the auxiliary, we have the cost 1.5% at 100, so that cost for the clerical is $192,552. On the auxiliary, we have the 1.5%, $120,702. Then we have one position and only one that needed to be adjusted into the new range minimums. So again, very small changes in the para and the auxiliary as far as structures overall. Now we're just addressing peer-to-peer equity. We have the placement scale adjustment here, 91 of them at $27,777. And then we have a duty schedule adjustment in this category here. So in total, your teachers, your administrators, your paraprofessionals, and your auxiliary, 1.5% is $880,838. Then we have the additional adjustments, and those additional adjustments are $441,807 for a total cost of $1,322,645. And so this is a 2.3% increase to your current payroll budget of a little over $57,583,000 there. So these costs do not include the costs for increases to those that are above the range maximums. So, we've, as we've recommended in the past, we have said, the individuals that are paid above the range maximums are paid considerably above the market. They've been paid a premium rate of pay, and so what we're saying is hold their pay and use some of the money that you would use in providing increases there to bring up the lower paid employees who have had a greater disparity in pay over this time frame. Any questions? It's a lot of information.
I just have a comment that I think you've done tremendous work to bring us in line with other districts, and I know when we started this salary study, we were, way off, and now it seems to be that every year we have less and less work to do to bring us in mid-range of where everybody else is. It's an ever-changing world. I'm sure that as we're speaking, the numbers are going to be changing, but I think it's less work every year.
Yeah, and I mean, we can see from what you, the board, and the administration, the results of, while it was challenging to make the changes last year, I mean, we can see the benefits of getting you into a much more competitive structure for your paraprofessionals and your auxiliaries, and being able to at least, set the pay that's pretty much connected to what your other peers are paying for those positions. It's a little bit closer. Like I mentioned, we have a little bit tweaking here and there. That'll always be the case, but the cost associated with making small adjustments is not as huge and not as impactful as having to make huge adjustments like we've had to do. So when we come back after we made a big adjustment, those costs are smaller, the changes are smaller too, or less.
And it's just reality, because I know that, like mechanics, we've had vacancies that we can't fill, but it's because everybody else is paying more.
And my concern, well, actually not a concern, I wish we could do something about it, is that, we're competitive at the middle. Well, it's hard for our HR person and our superintendent, everybody to recruit teachers, first-year teachers. From 0 to 5, this is, we're falling behind. If I was a teacher coming to this area, Uvalde and Eagle Pass would probably be a little more attractive, depending on everything. There's a lot of variables.
Yes.
The city, the school district, what they're doing, etc. But still, pay makes a lot of difference. It's a lot easier to recruit and all that kind of thing. So I wish in some way we could raise our beginning pay so that it'll be a lot more competitive. And I know the other ones, the accelerator. I don't think anybody moves in the town to take this type of jobs. We get our good people from local.
Yeah.
So the ones that we worried about being recruited are the teachers.
Well, and
Administrators.
that's the group that you go to job fairs, you set up your table, you put up your sign, and then you look around you and you just, it's like, okay, who's gonna wanna even stop at this table?
And that was, when I'm sure that Mr. Mason, I went and recruited, I did myself, and it was hard, they bypassed us all the time. And because our selling sound was way below, way back in my years that I was teaching, was a principal. So anyway, but it's good. Appreciate all the.
And all this is scalable, all this is scalable. So we understand districts have to work within their financial resources. What we try to do is try to maximize those dollars in the areas that you need to move towards it. So whatever we can do to help the district, certainly.
Exactly. We just can't compete with San Antonio business-wise.
Yeah.
They bring in more money.
Yeah. And just keep in mind that while salaries and being competitive is very important, salary alone is not the only indicator as far as employees being happy or being able to recruit someone, right? I mean, there's other things. they've done surveys of employees, and they've asked them to rate, maybe the top 3 reasons why either they went to the place, why they, why they took the position, why they've remained in the position. Salary hasn't really rated at the top. It's rated within those 3, but a lot of it, what we've seen the most, a lot of it is development, opportunities for growth, and support, administration support. So it's important, and that's not to say that salary is not important, because it's very personal, and it is a livelihood, the lifestyle for individuals. But again, there's other things that can add to, so you don't have to be the highest paying, but if you have other things that benefit.
And that's my concern, once we get them up here, I'm sure we can keep them. I know some teachers here they were coming here for a year, and they've been here 30 years. Coach Ferreira was coming up here, so happened that I knew him when he first arrived here. He was here temporarily, sort of. Even the kid came back and stayed here. So it's good. So once we get them here, fine. But let's face it, I was a beginning teacher at one time or another. I almost quit my first year. I was ready to go back where I came from. Because on Saturday, I looked at it, he says, hey, I was making more money every 2 weeks than I'm making here in a month. Way over. So salary does make a difference.
I know districts were really having a
And
hard
other
time
levels.
with when the oil boom. They lost a lot of districts in the San Antonio area, and in the Cotulla, Natalia, out that area, they lost a lot of teachers because they were able to make more and going to work in the oil fields. So, of course, we saw the boom on that, and then they came back. But yeah,
We're doing okay. Wish we'd do better. Teachers feel like we should do better. There's only so much money to go around.
So this is TASB's recommendation, or proposal. Is administration going to bring a version before this is all over and done with?
We're going to wait until we see what the state, what funding bill the state comes up with, Mr. Overfeld. We had been hopeful with a House bill, and it went up and got a Senate amendment, and then the House bill voted down a Senate amendment. And so we still don't know what we're going to get, but once we get the funding formula, then we'll be able to make a recommendation. At this point, this would be a great starting point, and if there was enough money to be able to implement this, we would absolutely go with Luce's recommendation. But until we know how much money is out there, we really aren't able to.
And that'd be by next meeting, right? By the next workshop.
The first week of June is when they should finalize everything.
If they
And
don't call a
then,
special session.
well,
Then calls.
yeah, that's true.
Monday is the last day that they could.
Yeah, yeah,
HB 21 is that one. That's the one that was going to pump in.
right.
it's dead, right?
And I got converted
She
to
did.
Senate bill. I
Well,
haven't
today
heard,
said
but it got
Brian,
converted
it
to
seemed like
Senate
we
bill.
didn't get any extra.
Any extra,
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
as a board member, I'd like to see if administration could evaluate some positions such as interventionists. For example, we have 20 plus people there. And if it's not making the positive impact that we all expected, that be looked at, because that's a lot of positions that we have there. So as the scores come in, I hope the board will look at that critically and evaluate whether those positions are being, again, making an impact. And if they're not, then we need to do something about that so that we can be able to make these changes.
That's a concern.
Okay.
Is there anything anybody else would like for us to add to this, or any other information that we need to bring so that, for the next meeting, we can research?
I was just glad to see those positions that that, needed some change. I think you've done a tremendous job, and I think, we've been, for example, the mechanic, that the vacancy exists, nobody wants it because everybody else is paying more. That was right in line, and then you were able to see that. And then some of the other positions that either are too high, you don't have a whole lot of them, but still to be able to bring them into range. But I don't think I think it's a very thorough job. I don't have anything to.
So what y'all come up with?
Yes.
County County. Ms. Valdez.
We'll come up with something as soon as the state
Just come up with
goes.
something.
I know.
We'll be right in line with our budget. And as far as evaluating positions, I do have a whole slew of positions that I'd like to recommend to the board. Our goal is to reduce class size, and there are a whole lot of positions when we talk about having impact on student achievement that can be better utilized in the classroom. So that is already completed, and we'll be sharing that with the board, Mr. Mesa. But it is extensive.
And I'm looking at the interventionists because, again, they're experienced teachers, very good teachers that were taken out of the classroom. And I'm looking at the scores and I'm thinking, well, is that a dollar amount making a change? And I just want for that to be evaluated critically so that we can have all options on the table when we do come to make a decision.
Yes, sir. Well, hopefully we'll have scores sometime next week, right?
Awesome.
We already have scores.
Good. Scores that,
The scores at the secondary level were exceptional. As I talked to my colleagues in different districts, at the secondary level, we're 10 and 20 points higher than other districts, and a lot of it has to do with what finally came together this year, so we're very proud of the work that the
they have
district
some
has done.
grand race with a daughter of the teacher in San Antonio. She couldn't believe it. There's a difference.
Huge.
Alrighty, then if no one else has anything else for administration to look at before we come back, the next budget workshop right now is scheduled for the 29th of June. And then there's a to be determined operations one somewhere in there also.
Yep. Y'all come up with a date for that one.
I think it was June 22nd.
22nd?
I think that one was the one,
Right, the 6th or 7th is the 22nd?
22nd. June 22nd for operation.
Okay. Then we'll look at that there. Yeah, thank you for putting all this together. I know it's a lot of work. We'll thank you for all of that.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to come back. I always enjoy working with the board and the administration, so it's been a pleasure.
Thank
No,
you.
we thank you
Thank you.
because you're back for a reason. You were.
Then at this time, I'm going to adjourn the workshop at 7:27 p.m. and we're going to go straight into the special call meeting. There is nothing in items 6 through 15 listed, which takes us straight into 16 closed session. So for all the legal fun there, if during the course of any duly posted meeting, the board of trustees determines that a closed or executive session is required regarding an item posted on the agenda, that session will be held on any or all subjects and purposes permitted by section 551.071, 72, 73, 74, 76, 082, 084, and 087 of Government Code, Texas Open Meetings Act. Final vote is required on any matter considered in the closed or executive session. It should be taken either upon the reconvening of the public session covered by this notice or a subsequent duly posted public meeting as the board shall determine. Tonight, pursuant to 551.074, discussion of personnel or hear complaints against personnel, and 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney, discussion of personnel report to include new hire, district vacancy, retirement, resignations, and reassignments, and 2, discussion of the comptroller position. All action and votes will be taken in open session upon reconvening. It is now 7:28 p.m. and we're in closed session. Thank you. All right, it is 7:45 PM, Thursday, May 25th, 2017. We're back in open session. No action was taken. That brings us to 17A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, and resignations. Dr. McNamara.
Okay, yes, sir. President Overfelt, members of the board, and Dr. Rios, the administration recommends the following applicants for employment in our district. Ms. Abigail Manchin, second grade teacher, Ruben Chavita Elementary. Brittany Papitas, third grade teacher at Lamar Elementary. Gabriela Velasco, first grade teacher, North Heights Elementary. Luisa Benavides, second grade teacher, North Heights Elementary. Lorinda Solis, special ed co-teacher at Del Rio Middle School. Bonnie Cantu, assistant athletic trainer, Del Rio High School. Ms. Sarah Moreno, social studies teacher, Blended Academy. And that concludes our recommendation, sir.
Heard the recommendation, I so move. Is there a second? Mr. Mesa, Mr. Chavita, all in favor? Unanimous carries, thank you. B, consideration to approve comptroller, Dr. McNamara.
Okay. President Overfelt, members of the board, Dr. Rios, it is a recommendation of the administration that Ms. Yvonne Rodriguez be named as our new comptroller.
Heard the recommendation, Mr. Mesa first, seconded by Mr. Chavita, all in favor? Unanimous carries, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nothing under superintendent's report. Being no further business for the board, is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Mesa, second by Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor? Unanimous carries, adjourned at 7:47 PM. Thank you.